Okay, so we've been talking about, what society or what the economy or what boards or shareholders or just people like us can do about this. And it seems to me a lot of responsibility is going to have to lay with the board of directors. And it seems to me also there may be two major decisions they could deal with to affect this. One is to have a policy of exclusively growing their own next CEO, to groom and elect a CEO. It's been with the company, it's been inside that compensation structure for some time. And so they don't have to go outside and pay these exaggerated fees and signing bonuses and such. That's one. Secondly, they could actually take the firm private. They could go private with the company, buy out the shareholders, and not have to have these debates in the public forum. So what do you think of those ideas?
Well, first on the going private avenue, while I don't think it's tied principally to issues of executive compensation, right, I certainly have heard board members and C-suite members in private companies speak of the advantages of being private so that the terms of the transaction between the C-suite and the board remain private for the most part. And so there's no question in my mind that one of the ways to avoid some of these complexities is to have a company go private and then in some sense privatize the conversation about the terms of performance and terms of compensation, terms of ownership within a much smaller group rather than subjecting it to the review of the Wall Street Journal and thousands of shareholders.
Right. And what about the idea of growing your own CEO candidates?
Well, there's also pretty significant evidence, and I suspect Don can comment about this as well, that some of the best managed companies are companies that in fact grow their own, have a well-structured succession plan that reaches several levels below the CEO and continually identifies those candidates who are ready to move up in the organization and eventually become CEO. That establishes a culture of expectation in the company that I can do well here, and that has tremendously beneficial effects on the culture of the organization.
Don, what do you think?
With regard to public and private, I think we have to acknowledge that the pressures on a CEO of a publicly traded company are immense. What we saw in the late 90s was the earnings management that we've talked about earlier, and the running the numbers, the earnings call, the tremendous pressure that takes place on a CEO. Right here in Denver, Exhibit A would be Joe Naccio at Quest. He's in jail, but for a long time the numbers looked good and profits came in and bonuses came and stock options paid well. So yes, I understand the need to go private, but there's a sense in which the conversation has to continue as to publicly held companies. And Aspen Institute just 2 years ago did a wonderful paper called Overcoming Short-Termism, where they suggested specific changes to the Delaware Corporate Code, or corporate codes generally, in terms of the expectations put on public companies and their earnings reports and how executives would be compensated and how to make long-term alignments take place rather than the kind of short-term hits that people were encouraged to do in the 90s and earlier part of the 2000s, I guess we'll call them. So there are structural changes. It's a wonderful document. People like Warren Buffett and John Bogle signed on to this document along with Wolfenson and quite a few other leading capitalists. And I would just refer people to the Aspen Institute's principles and their about short 8-page document called Overcoming Short-Termism. I don't think we can give up on public companies entirely. And I think that we need to continue the conversation and see if we can relieve some of this pressure towards short-termism that is driving a lot of why people want to go private.
Yeah.